going to learn what is all about poverty and inequality in India. Let's begin with the introduction. So, when we talk about in the year 2015, as per the Health Organization report, or we can say the estimation, more than 872 million people are actually belong to the below the poverty line, out of which 180 million were living in India. This is the data which belongs to year 2015, and it means that the most of the population of India are living below the poverty line, which is actually close to 21% in year 2015. As poverty is actually a epidemic there, so automatically the people who are lacking a minimum amount of the basic needs, not even have a source of money, not even any kind of material possession, that actually refers to poverty. Poverty are mainly classified into two categories. The first one is absolute poverty, and the second one is relative poverty. When we talk about the absolute poverty, it refers or it means the lack of necessary basic needs of the people like food, clothing, shelter, water, etc. And that is actually called the absolute poverty. The second category of the poverty, it's related to the relative poverty, which automatically refers or relate to the individual social and economic standard, where like how the people are actually the how the people's standard of living would be. And when we get the status of their economic status, of their social status, that actually relates or refers to the relative poverty, as if it is compared to the society. In India, poverty estimation, it's a plenty of you can say the digits which the people who are actually below the poverty line, and the concept of the poverty, it's mainly classified into two methods. The first is all about the income, that whether the income is sufficient to you can say fulfill the basic needs or the necessities of an individual, and that kind of method is called the income approach, where the to fulfill or to identify the economic status of the company, that is mainly to estimate through the income method only. The other method we can talk about the consumption approach, where we can take the how many families are actually consumed the food, the clothing and the shelters, how their basic amenities could be you can say fulfilled, and how the food would be consumed, and what would be the consumption per day of that particular population who are actually living below the poverty line. And that when researchers and when the particular organizations, when they try to research on that by using of this approach, that is called the consumption approach. So when we talk about the poverty, it's classified into two parts, relative and absolute. When the how to estimate the poverty line, it will be classified by two methods only. The first one is income method, and the second one is consumption method. Now, the next part is how to measure the poverty. So there are various plenty of methods, the ratios where the poverty could be estimated. And the first measurement tool is a head count ratio. Head count ratio, it's in normal sense we can define as a percentage of the total population which is actually poor by the number of or the total number of the population, and that is called the head count ratio. That means we just divide the total population to the total population of the poor people, that actually called the head count ratio. Or in other words, we can talk the ratio of the total population that is poor and the number and the total population, and that is called the head count ratio. Let's take an example to understand this particular concept. If there are 1,000 people living in a particular region, that means among whom 430 people are poor. So that means out of the total population, the 430 people are poor. That means the Q is 430, and the total population is the 1,000. As in a particular region, the 1,000 people are actually living in that particular region. So once we divide the 1,000 into 430, you will get the head count ratio, that is 0.40, and this 0.40 can be denoted in the percentage, as we are estimating the ratio, that is 43% of people are actually in this particular area or a selected area in the example are poor. So that is called the first measurement tool, that how to calculate the poverty, that is through head count ratio. The second one is poverty gap index. So when we study the intensity, how deep the poverty, how the people are actually living below the poverty line. So to find out such ratios, to find out that index of such population that is poor, that is called poverty gap index. So this particular concept is always tells that to what extent the individuals on an average basis fall below the poverty line. So if we need to find out that how much the population or the percentage of the people are actually residing below the poverty line, then this particular measurement tool, that is the poverty gap index, is the most appropriate, or you can say the most efficient indicator, which automatically tells us that how much the population are living below the poverty line. So automatically it always refers to estimate the average or the mean of the population who are actually below the poverty line. It reflects both the depth and the incidence of the poverty, that how much the ratio is to be there, what would be the sample is to be taken, and where is to be taken. So automatically when they are categorized into two parts, it's a poor index and the non-poor index. So automatically the population who are below the poverty line is actually called the poor index. But there is another category that is called the non-poor index, that actually called the zero poverty gap. So the population who are not belong to poverty, who are not belong to below the poverty line, that actually considered the zero poverty gap. So automatically when there is to calculate the mean of the poverty of an individual in a selected area, this tool is definitely work out, that is called the poverty gap index. The next tool is the squared poverty gap index, where we just whatever the gap index is estimated, what would be the percentage, we just square that proportionate poverty gap, where we just calculate or the square that poverty value, that is actually called the squared poverty gap index. So basically when we talk about this measure, is mainly useful when we just find out the severity of the particular poverty gap, you can say index, which ultimately in other words we can call the poverty severity index. So it can also refer the weighted sum of the poverty gaps, which automatically proportionates to the poverty gap. So such index which is being calculated, it's used as a square of the poverty gap index. It's mainly refers to the inequalities occurred among the poor. So it also used to find out the inequalities among the poor as well. So this index is also being useful. So if that means if any of the poverty gap is 5%, that means the weight of that poverty gap is also 5%. If there is a poverty gap of 60%, then the weight of that poverty gap is also 60% and so on. So if any gap is to be calculated in percentage would be 10, 15, that means the overall weight, that means the overall mean of that poverty gap is also remains the same. That is called the squared poverty gap index. The next one is Sen index. So according to the professor, that is A.K. Sen in 1976, which have always implemented such index that is called the Sen index, where we combining all the three main measurement tools which has been taught earlier to estimate that what would be the number of the poor, depth of the poverty, what would be the number of the poor people, what would be the depth of the poverty, what would be the distribution of the poverty within the group or within the communities, then ultimately this index would be useful. But in real, this particular index is used in a theoretical aspect but not being used in practice, and it is a very difficult composition where the three main measures is to be used combinedly. So that's why it is more theoretical and less applied in practice, in real practice. The next one is Watts index. The Watts index automatically that how the poverty is insensitive or you can see the sensitive. So when we measure the distribution of the sensitivity of the poverty or non-sensitivity of the poverty, this particular index will be used, which equals to the Watts equal to 1 by n. N is exactly the number of individuals who are being arranged according to their incomes in into log z minus log yi. So automatically z is ultimately the total number of population who are actually living below the poverty line, and the yi is totally the, you can say, any population who are below the poverty line, that is z. So automatically this index is also very popular because it automatically satisfies all the theoretical properties, but ultimately it's not yet popular when it applying practically or the in real life situations. So that's why it's popular when it satisfy or to satisfy any theoretical ones properties, but it's not being applied in real as well. So the last two measurements are basically are very good in the theoretical aspects, but it's not being applied or it's not being popular in application as well. So this is the data which has been shown as a state-wise percentage of the population below the poverty line. So if you look up the year of 2011 to 2021, it classified into regions, that is the rural and urban, and what would be the total percentage of these respective years. So these are the states where we talk about the Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Arunachal Pradesh, Assam, and so on, Uttar Pradesh and West Bengal. So when we look up the highest percentage in the rural region where the maximum population are actually living below the poverty line is Chhattisgarh as compared to the rural region. So when we talk about the as compared to the urban region, so when we talk about the urban region, the most of the population who actually belong is Manipur, where the people are more percentage of the people are actually living below the poverty line. So if you look up the total, that is automatically the maximum percentage of the people who are actually living is below the poverty line in all of the states as compared to the urban region. That's very true. It is a fact that there are a more number of people, there are the more population who are actually residing below the poverty line in these particular states when we compare to the rural regions. So it cannot be said or it cannot be, you can say, assume that there is no population who are living below the poverty line in urban region also. So in fact, the more percentage has been revealed in urban region, rural region rather than urban. So automatically, when we talk about the highest percentage, it is also in the rural is Jharkhand, 40.8%, where the Chhattisgarh is 44.6%, Madhya Pradesh, that is 35.7%, and Odisha is also being involved, that is 35.7%. So these are the most of the states where the maximum population is living below the poverty line. But in case of the urban areas where the states like Chhattisgarh, we can talk about Jharkhand, we can talk about Manipur, we can talk about as compared to the years that is 2020 to 21, where the Bihar is also the one of the state which also belongs to the second highest category, where the population is also going below the poverty line as compared to 2020 to 21. In fact, the Jharkhand is also listed, the Manipur is also listed, then we can talk about the Uttar Pradesh as well. We can also list it as the maximum population is below the poverty line in 2020 to 21 as well. But when we talk about the rural region in the year 2020 to 21, Bihar is also listed in the below the poverty line. Chhattisgarh is also listed. When we talk about the Jharkhand is also there, Madhya Pradesh is also there. We can also talk about the Maharashtra also, because there is so much backward areas as well in the Maharashtra as well. Madhya Pradesh is also involved. Nagaland is also involved, which is the highest percentage of the below the poverty line in 2020 to 21. We can also talk about the Uttar Pradesh as well in 2020 to 21, and rural region is also being listed as a, you can say, a steady percentage of the population who are below the poverty line. So automatically, when we there is an improvement in the years, in the particular respective years, when we look up the 2000 to 21, it always been in increasing level, but when we compared to the 2020 to 21, it is being reduced, the poverty line. So it automatically, as in the earlier slide, it's mentioned that in all over India, 21% is equal to the population who are belong to poverty line in 2021 to 2015 as well. But when we compare to the 2020 to 21, automatically the level of the population, or the max or the total population level below the poverty line is also being reduced from 21.9 to 17.9, as you can see in a green signal. Now we can also compare the poverty line percentage in various countries. We can talk about Meghalaya, we can talk about the Bhutan, we can talk about Nepal, we can talk about the Sri Lanka, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and India. So if we look up the poverty rate in India, it's almost the highest percentage of in 2021 as compared to the rest of the countries like Meghalaya, Bhutan, Nepal, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, and Bangladesh, all the Asian countries. But as India is always a top listed, the highest poverty rate, which you can see in the particular diagram on screen, as the second highest is Bangladesh and the third highest is Pakistan as compared to Sri Lanka, Nepal, Bhutan, and Meghalaya. So Meghalaya and Bhutan is also, it's no poverty rate. There is no poverty which has been seen where the population is actually not belong to poverty. Is two countries belong, that is Meghalaya and Bhutan. So this is the poverty rate where the almost we can talk about the 13.5% of poverty rate belongs to India in 2021 as compared to the other countries. Now we can talk about the poverty measurement in India. What would be the like how the 5 year plans or the 6 year plans? What would be the rate of the poverty? How it would be measured? And what parameters the poverty has been measured in India during such plans period. So we can talk about the first one during the first 2 5 years plan periods. Poverty is always refers to the minimum energy requirement which always believed to live up the healthy and the normal life. But when we estimate such energy norms which is being set up that how much the adult taken such healthy diet per day basis in urban areas or in the rural areas, so that has been estimated at as 2400 calories meal per adult per day in urban areas been estimated, and 2900 calories per adult per day in rural areas. So when we talk about in the year 1960 to 61, the prices are actually it's not high, it's a very normal rate, but at that time it would be expensive for the population. So the poverty line was defined, that how the poverty line has been defined in such particular period is defined as a national minimum of 20 rupees per capita per month for urban area, for rural areas, and 25 rupees per capita per month for urban areas. So this is how a particular rate being decided to estimate that it is a poverty line or it is not a poverty line. So many experts have always been conducted studies, reports, and even the surveys as well. And it always refers or recommended there should be a different poverty line expenditures levels for the rural and urban population, which you can see that how much the investment or the expenditures to be incurred is to be incurred or is to be decided by the organizations or the government, that is 20 rupees per capita per month and in rural areas, and 25 per capita per month in urban areas. So when we talk about the next 6 5 year plans in 1980 to 85, the per capita consumption expenditure approach will be used. So the how much the energy requirement at that particular time would be is being reduced as compared to the 2 5 year plans. That means the 2400 calories per adult per day in rural areas and 21 calories per adult per day in the urban areas. So automatically it's been reduced when we compare to the 2 5 year plans period. So based on the observed estimations, in 1973 to 74, then automatically average consumer expenditure at how much the consumer expend on the particular food, that is in you can say in the rural areas and urban areas. So when we talk about the consumer expenditure in the rural areas, that is rupees 49 per capita per income and rupees 57 per capita per income for the urban areas, what actually the poverty line. So automatically, whatever the calories is being reduced in 1980 to 85, then automatically the poverty line is almost drawn based on the consumption, and based on the consumer expenditure as well. A second revelation of such reports, which has been conducted by the, you can say, by the survey which was being conducted in 2000, and after that conducted in 2002, only the 1/3 of the preschool children were automatically taking up the protein calories, which is the adequate norms for the healthy diet. But unfortunately, the undernutrition is always a major problem among the preschool children in India, and there's also a particular estimations, or you can say approach. We can talk about the mixed record period, that we need to focus again about the calories. We need to focus about the adequate norms of the healthy and active life of the children's, and accordingly in 2000, as per the Consumer Expenditure Survey, automatically a 30 days was adopted, where the survey is being conducted for all the items, including food and non-food items, that automatically we need to check on that how much the percentage of the population are actually living or taking up a nutritional diet or undernutrition or moderate. So automatically, when the survey is being conducted or the estimations is being find out about the poverty line, and and why it is a reason about the undernutrition because of the income, because that the people, the maximum population would not be able to spend on the spend their income on the food, and they will not able to get the healthy nutritious diet for their children, and that's the main reason the estimations is total is 27 per rupees per capita per day for the rural region, and when we talk about the urban region, that is 224 rupees per capita per day in urban areas. That means 810 per month being spent in rural areas, and 720 rupees per month spent on the urban areas. And the corresponding estimates for such year, that is 2004 to 5, were 28 rupees for the rural region. That means that 840 rupees per month and 780 rupees per month for the urban areas. These estimates always refers to a poverty line, that when the people who are actually spending the maximum population of the total income is only the 810 per month, which been estimated according to the consumer survey in 2000 only. So this is how the poverty line is being estimated according to the consumption and expenditure approach. When we talk about the estimates of poverty line as well, and when we talk about after 2010, it was being estimated and circulated by two major reports. The first one is Tendulkar report, that is in 2009, which always refers the per capita per day requirement in rural areas is 27 rupees, which is 810 per capita per income for rural areas, and 990 per capita per income for urban areas. And such a small amount, which always refers to a poverty line only, and as per the report of 2009 Tendulkar report. The second report is also is Rangarajan in 2014, which also denotes the poverty line, that is the 32 rupees per capita per income in rural areas and 47 rupees per capita per income in urban areas. So automatically, when we calculate the monthly basis income, that is 972 rupees for rural areas and 1407 for urban areas. Such reports is always refers that the maximum population is living below the poverty line in 2011 to 12, and it leads to the 29.5% in all over the India, that is below the poverty line, and automatically the major percentage is also being divided in the various locations as well, which has been shown in the particular table, and it also placed, that is at 30.9% in rural areas and 26.4% in urban areas. So this is a total population percentage who belongs to rural and urban areas, and the people are actually living below the poverty line as per the two reports, that is called the Tendulkar report in 2009 and the Raghunarajan report in 2014. Now we can talk about the poverty leakages. That how what would be the reasons where the maximum population leads to poverty. The first one is nutrition. So poverty is always restrict the income and the expenditure. Then automatically it leads to malnutrition and dietary deprivations. So automatically it also leads to a lack of mental and physical development as well. So when there is no proper public distribution system, or there is no subsidized food at a particular nominal rates, so automatically it leads to you can say malnutrition, and it leads to poverty as well. When their expenditure is out of the pocket, then automatically the scarcity of food situation is always being exist, and over the years the household expenditure is automatically declining on food, particularly belongs the people who are actually residing below the poverty line, or for the poor people as well. So when we talk about to face off such situation, in 1975, the government has launched the various schemes such as the integrated child development services, where the food supplements is to be provided to the women in all over the country, and even as there is a situation of the malnutrition, automatically the low birth weight rates are still over 30%, and half of the population, you can say, relate to the children are undernourished. So automatically there would be a higher rate of the undernutrition in India among the children, where the low birth weight, we can say, for poor infant situation, we can say the child feeding and the caring practices are also poor. So just because of the you can say it's just because of the dietary deprivations and the malnutrition as well. So this is also we can talk about, there is a major problem, that is nutrition, and along with that, to compete such situation, the government has accordingly launched the schemes as well to overcome such situation. The next one is credit. After the financial liberalization, there are various services. We can talk about the microfinance financial institutions, that how the improvement in the credit services is being implemented by the government of India. And of course, the improvement in the credit services is measured by two indicators. That is the ratio of the total bank credit to the net state domestic product, and the financial inclusion, and what would be the penetration measured by the per capita. That means it's open up the various bank branches per million persons in each state, and that is our major process. And ultimately, who will going to give the credits to the people? That is ultimately the banks. So this is, and how the banks is estimated the you can say their financial credit. It's automatically ratio of the total bank divided by what would be the ratio of the finance and the state-wise, you can say, circulation or expansion of the credit. So it has been observed in India that the financial depth is always been negative, and a significant correlation with the rural poverty, as the credit is not available in the rural regions. So automatically banks would come forward to open up the banks whenever there is necessary and eligibility. They can just give the credits to the such people, and of course then automatically as a result the most migration is being reduced from rural to urban areas as well. And the banking sector and the financial institutions is also automatically the and their development would reduce the income inequality in poverty as well. The next one is insurance. So, when we talk about the poverty, the maximum population is living below the poverty or in poverty. The tertiary healthcare automatically in India is too expensive for the people who are actually belong to a lower income group. So, as a result, to equal the tertiary healthcare which is being untreated and left devastating state in India, and automatically the hospitalization expenses are too high, so automatically it will leads to major cause of poverty. And ultimately, when there is no proper treatment and it was the treatment is so expensive, the cases of the heart disease, the cancers is automatically is in a high or a peak level in many of the countries, especially in India, as the India is always face of the higher incidence of the poverty. So to meet up such need, a government has already launched one of the scheme which always provide a security related to health those people who actually belong to poverty, whether it's below or uh, moderate or the lower poverty, and that is called the Vajpayee Agurishri scheme, which was launched in Karnataka in 2010. And there is also another scheme which is launched for the people who are below the poverty line, that is the National Health Insurance Program, that is Rashtriya Swasthya Bima Yojana. So these two schemes are very well launched and it still exists in India now as well. And the people who are actually belong to poverty, these schemes are very useful and anyone can opt, but they must belong to a poverty line, below the poverty line. And that's why government has launched to overcome such situation due to the heavy expenses or a higher expenditure on the treatment of the disease for such people who are belong to a lower income group. The next one is informal economy. So when we talk about the informal economy, we always talk about the self-employment in the small unregistered enterprises and the wage employment in unprotected jobs in the formal sector, where the jobs is not you can say permanent. It's just like uh, informal. So automatically, it means not all formal workers are poor and not all working poor are engaged only in informal sector. So automatically, there is a growing rate of the workers worldwide who are actually belong to the informal employment, who are working in a factory, who are working being as a security guard, who are working being as a peon, who are working being as a household, who are working in as a construction worker, who are involved in the construction, whether males and females. Ultimately, the workers who are working in a formal sector, they should enjoy the major benefits of the social security. It would be the health, it would be the life insurance, and automatically why it is important, because the heavy expenditure, or you can say, or the healthcare expenses are so much high that ultimately, due to such security benefits in their during their employment, which marginalize the poor even more, and that is the actually a way to reduce the poverty. The next one is discrimination. So poverty and discriminations are often automatically correlate to each other. Discrimination refers in terms of ethnicity, race, gender, directly, automatically influence the economic opportunities through a various set of institutional effect. Ultimately, it also you can say institution of marriage, the even the schools or the work settings near the surroundings. So automatically, discrimination always influence directly or indirectly into a poor people life as well, whether it belong to rural or urban regions. Next one is Poverty Elevation Initiatives till 2010. So the first one is agricultural growth. So automatically, when there is a poverty elevation programs has been launched, so automatically it leads to agricultural growth. So any strategy being applied by the government, so automatically it's just to reduce the poverty and of course to tackle all those issues related to the poverty in the rural areas, which leads to 68.6% of the total population as per the census data in 2011. So when we talk about in 2011 to 12, 80% of the population lived in rural areas as most of their livelihood condition is dependent totally or in directly or indirectly based on the performances of the agricultural sectors only. As the people who are below the poverty line, they mostly engaged into agricultural sectors only. So the rural farms or no non-farms income are so much independent and strictly to the such you can say agricultural industries which refers or requires then automatically with the vibrant agricultural growth. And automatically, there are various surveys which has been conducted in 2011 to 12. We can talk about the employment unemployment survey of National Sample Survey Organization, where the agricultural and the other aligned activities where the total workforce are employed in India leads to 49% only. So automatically, this particular growth is almost a good rate in 2010, where the half of the population are engaged in the agricultural aligned activities, and automatically the share of the agriculture in the gross domestic product of the Indian economy is below 15%. So automatically, whereas the more and more the maximum population of the workforce depending on agriculture, then automatically the GDP growth will also be you can see somehow little increased or at below 15% as well. The next one is midday meal scheme. So automatically this scheme is also launched by the government where in 1995 with the various objectives like improving the nutritional status of the children, how to elevate the classroom hunger and how to increase the school enrollment in numbers, how to increase the students or children attendance or to minimize the dropout rates. And in 2008 to 9, the program is so much extended to upper primary level as well, where the government is always expand such scheme in a progressive manner to include the children in private schools or the government schools or to involve such quota who are belong to economical weaker sections or particularly in a scheduled caste and scheduled tribes and minority concentrated areas. In today also in government schools, such midday meal schemes automatically applied by the government in the various government schools. As I visited in one of the school where the children is getting the midday meals in the during their lunch by the you can say school authorities only with the association with the government, as it is called the centrally sponsored scheme since 1995. So as of now, we can talk about only the 75% of the schools have kitchen sheds also. Even there is all a huge kitchen where the meals is being cooked and served to all the children of the schools in their respective regions. And or you can say midday meal is being cooked in an open area or in the separate classrooms. So automatically it will it could be a major cause of the concern for the health and the quality of education of status as Yes, if it is open, cooked in open area, cooked in the classroom, definitely it would be a major concern. But such meals are being cooked in some of the areas in the kitchen sheds, then automatically it would be so much beneficial where every children at least get some meals to improve their nutritious diet. And the next one is Bingrega. Bingrega is always guaranteed that there should be 100 days of the unskilled unemployment in specified way. So such particular scheme is refers to the workers who is aim to get a satisfied wage for a given financial year for at least one member of the rural of every rural household. The scheme is launched in 2006 to 7 in almost 200 selective districts, and it always gradually extended to the whole country as well. So the main objective of this scheme is almost to provide the satisfied wages to every household member who are actually belong to the rural areas of the country. So even through such scheme, the large and large workers, even the small and the marginal workers, always come forward either they belong to scheduled caste, scheduled tribes, and in India, 47% of the total person